beverage or two and settle in. This is the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920, the flagship for the silver and black. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, Clay Baker, coming to you live from Las Vegas here on a Wednesday, August 26th, 2026. A day away from the Raiders' final preseason game. But more importantly than that, we have an official update to Ashton Jeanty. He is, quote, on the mend. I've heard a lot of injury updates from coaches and different avenues and things of that ilk. I don't think I've ever heard on the mend as an official update. Clint Kubiak not wanting to go into injuries with his players, and who could blame him? Week 1 is around the corner. You don't need to tell anybody. You don't need to tell anything about until it's time to tell something about something. Now, obviously, deadlines, the calendar will dictate a lot and tell us a lot about giving us a better idea of when we can expect an Ashton Jeanty and a possible return. But when we hear on the mend, obviously, it's better than a negative. I don't know if it's necessarily positive because aren't we all on the mend at the end of the day? As we wake up every morning, we're all on the mend.
We're all mending. We're all getting better.
Clint Kubiak definitely very intentional with how he's speaking or lack thereof. And again, I don't know if it's necessarily a surprise. I think all of us would like a definitive answer right in the here and now. That's not always possible, and it's not always the right thing to do organizationally. As you have time to figure things out, you have a lot of roster decisions to make here in the coming days, and you have a season to get ready for, game planning to do. Don't give an edge anywhere that does need to be given. So we'll start there with Ashton Jeanty as we continue to preview and look ahead to preseason game number 3, which actually, by the sound of it from Clint Kubiak, might actually have some guys in there of notable name. So we'll dig into that a little bit. Good morning, Clay. Good morning, Vinny. Are you on the mend, Vinny? Vinny, did we lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, we found him. There he is. Good morning, Vinny.
Yeah. Good morning. You know, we've talked about how Clint Kubiak is very economical with his words, but he said a lot in a little bit yesterday. He really did. On the mend is very, very encouraging, and we knew pretty much, a couple hours into the situation on Sunday that this wasn't going to be something that threatened. Ashton Jeanty's season. We would have already known if that was the case. We'd probably already know if this was a really significant injury in terms of months, not weeks. So him saying he's on the mend, that means everybody relax. He'll be back. It's just a matter of when. And we don't know that right now. And even if we have an idea, and when I say we, I'm talking about the Raiders, even if we had an idea of that, I'm not going to put a timeline on that. I'm not going to go there so that, in a couple of weeks, if it's still, a little bit iffy, you're going to say, hey, but you told me to list the but stop all that nonsense. I put myself in the coach's shoes and the organization's shoes. There's no need to put a timeline on it. He's on the mend. That's a very encouraging word right now. Otherwise, it would be, we're not going to be able to count on Ashton Jeanty for a little while. I don't know anything beyond that, but it's going to be a while before we see Ashton Jeanty. We got to move. There would have been that kind of an indication. We would have already been reporting things along those lines. That isn't the case. It is. It feels more like weeks than months. So now it's just a matter of when will he be back? But by all indications he will be back, and that's extremely and probably sooner rather than later. And that's extremely encouraging, even in the short economical way that he said it. To me, he said a lot yesterday.
Yeah, it feels like no news is more good news as the days go on, right? And as we get to that roster cut down day, because again. Deadlines, dates on the calendar, very important, especially this time of year when it comes to the roster and comes to those decisions. What the Raiders will do coming up this weekend will obviously give us a little bit more indication of where he's at without officially being told, right? So, Vinny, when we look at this deadline day, what are you looking for the most? Is it as opposed to the roster cuts and more so those IR designations, if any?
Right. And to explain, you get two injury, what's the word I'm looking for? Putting somebody on the injured list. You get two of those.
Two slots.
Before, two of those slots before you set. Okay, let's just. It's kind of hard to explain sometimes. Prior to a couple of years ago, if you went on IR, and with the ability to come back, you had to wait until the roster was set. Okay, so you'd have to put the roster in place, and let's just say Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty would have had to have been on the 53-man roster when the 53-man roster was set. Then you can put him on IR with the ability to bring him back. That meant that you had to cut somebody to save that the 53rd spot on your roster, right? And so somebody would have had to have been, cut, waived, whatever the case might be, to preserve that spot. Then you put Ashton on the injured reserve or whoever on the injured reserve. Then hopefully the guy that you cut that you kind of liked, but you had to get, you had to move on for him for a second or two because of the roster spot, the way the rules were. Then you hope that he cleared waivers and you brought him back, but that wasn't always the case. And sometimes you lost a really good player as a result of that, or somebody that you valued as a result of that. Thankfully, the NFL said, hey, look, this is kind of a backwards way to do things. Let's give each team two slots that they can, for players that they could put on the injured reserve list before they set the 53-man roster. And those two spots are allowable to be returned in 4 weeks. So theoretically, if Ashton were to go on the injured reserve list, it would be before the 53-man roster was set, with the ability to still bring him back after 4 weeks. Hopefully, it doesn't come to that, though.
Right.
And if he's on the roster to start the season, at roster cutdown, that means that the Raiders are projecting this as, a couple of weeks, maybe no weeks at all. Maybe he's able to play the season opener. But I would say more likely, more guardedly, I would say that if he is on the roster, the 53-man roster on August 31st, then the Raiders believe he'll be back before 4 weeks, before missing 4 games. So, but that doesn't mean that he's going to start the season opener or be able to play the season opener. Might not be that he could play week 2, but they believe that he'd be back before missing the 4 games that he would have to miss if he goes on the injured reserve list before that 53-man roster set. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. It's kind of confusing, but the better news would be that he doesn't have to start the season, obviously, on the IR, but it also wouldn't be, oh my gosh, the season's over if he has to start the season on the injured reserve. It just means the Raiders believe that he's not going to be ready to really go until 4 weeks or so, 5 weeks or so. So that's kind of the best way to explain it. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yep, and Clint Kubiak was asked several times yesterday about the scene, right? Because again, while we were there, it was a different scene. We talked to Alexa on Monday, talked to Jesse, who I was standing next to. We talked to Ryan McFadden. It was a different scene on Sunday as he goes down and everybody in unison, 80 some odd plus players, coaches, staff, etc. Everyone takes a knee to pray. And what felt like eternity, probably was more like 15 to 20 seconds, but it felt like a long time being in the indoor and it being so quiet. And he was asked several times about that moment and just, talks about how, he believes in the power of prayer. A lot of guys do. And he's a guy that Ashton Jeanty is a guy that this team counts on. It says a lot about the player. It also says a lot about the power of prayer. And then in one of the lighter moments, he was asked by our buddy Sam Gordon, and says, did it work? Trying to get some kind of answers beyond on the mend. And Clint Kubiak gave, one of the greatest lines ever, says, he answers all prayers in time. Right? So didn't give us any answers in the moment, but, it feels more positive than it shouldn't, to your point, Vinny.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, usually in these situations, based on history, if it's something that's going to, be a season-long type of a thing, or like months and months, it's already been reported by now. All right, there's agents that are involved. There's a lot of different things and a lot of different ways that that kind of news, ominous news, comes out. Now it's just what it feels like to me. It's an ankle sprain. Doesn't seem like it's a high ankle sprain, so it's a low ankle sprain. So now it's just a matter of getting him back to where he could go out there and play. And it feels like more weeks than months, obviously. But because the other part of this, the other caveat to all of this is that the Raiders, you're not obligated to have to give any kind of light on an injury right now. There's no competitive games, no actual games to be thinking about. So starting the week of September, what's their season opener? September, help me out with that. I forget what date the season opener is, but that week is when you have to start putting people on a status report, whether it's did they practice, what was their level of practice, what's their likelihood for the game, is he out, is he questionable, all those designations, and there's a lot of reasons why that happens. One is competitive balance. One, there's this whole other world that exists that we all pretend that doesn't exist sometimes, but does exist. Anyway, until that happens, until they have to actually put him on a report in terms of did he practice, what was his level of practice, and what's his status for the game going to be, then there's no reason for them to reveal anything. And That's just the way life works in professional sports. There's 31 other teams that you're competing with, and you don't need to give anybody any additional information if you don't have to. So they're not obligated to do it. And so for their purposes, to me, this is the best way to handle it. But from a fan's perspective, who obviously for Raider Nation, they're just hanging on the edge of their seat because they want to make sure that Ashton Jeanty is going to be back. I would say that I'd feel really good about that part of it.
Yeah, so week 1 is Sunday the 13th, but that first date that a status report would have to come out would be that Wednesday the 9th in terms of seeing something official from the team where they have to put out something. So to your point, I was blanking on the date of week 1.
Same here. I didn't want to give it.
And the internet.
Because you know why?
Not to go
there's all sorts of different dates right now. There's the Wednesday opener or Thursday opener. Then you got the Rams.
Yeah, Wednesday opener. That's a wild
right?
To say.
And the Rams are actually playing on a Thursday, although where they are going to be in Melbourne, it's a Friday. I mean, there's
2 weeks from today is the the season opener in the NFL. So that is good stuff. So 2 weeks from today, Raider Nation will get the most official thing that they can. That is, unless Clint Kubiak deviates from his plan and actually gives us something more than on the mend. But we will take on the mend as it is because that is encouraging, and anything else, no news is good news. But with Ashton Jeanty not in the picture, at least for the present particular moment, all eyes, attention turned to the rookie runner, Mike Washington Jr., who for the second consecutive day, sans Ashton Jeanty, took the majority of the 1 reps with the starters. So that poses the question. We were kind of ping-ponging that conversation a little bit yesterday. What are we going to see? Who are we going to see come Thursday? Clint Kubiak was asked about Mike Washington, his growth in camp. Here's what he had to say.
I think he's had a good camp, and we have to go see him play really good football on Thursday. But like you said, we got a lot of other guys that have to step up. Dylan, we got Himby, we got Dari. Omar's doing a great job coaching those guys and getting them ready.
So Clint Kubiak was asked a few questions later about the plan for Thursday. Who's playing, who's not, who are you going to sit down, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, I'm not going to get into that. We'll just have to wait and see till Thursday. Obviously, the team has a quote-unquote off day today, no media availability. So the next time we see them, we'll be on the field at Allegiant Stadium, so we'll have to see who's suited and not. But a few times throughout his presser, he did allude to the fact of certain guys that they'll be seen on Thursday. Mike Washington Jr. was one of them, which I find fascinating because I do think that plays a little bit into Ashton Jeanty. Because if Ashton Jeanty was a long-term situation, I would feel like, and maybe this is just me, we wouldn't see Mike Washington Jr. just because of how thin you would be if something were to happen to him. Again, that's me speculating a bit. What we do know is he talks about Thursday is going to be a big big opportunity for Mike Washington to continue to get reps and to kind of accelerate that growth. Now, before we dive into Mike Washington, Clint Kubiak was asked where he's seen the most progress from the rookie runner in the last month.
I would say that he has done a phenomenal job of, growing up really fast. I think he got here, we drafted him, you come to the NFL, there's a lot on your plate, and then we throw all these new protections at you, these new fronts and blitzes and routes, and I think that he's a guy that understands that we are counting on him, and he needs to get up to speed quickly, and he's been mature about that, and he's going to keep working.
So one of the most encouraging things that I've heard from Clint Kubiak, at least yesterday, when being asked about different players and things of that nature, was that opening line right there, that Mike has done a phenomenal job of growing up really fast, right? That means everybody understands height, his size, right? And then we've seen in short sample size his ability to run the rock, right? But as Clint Kubiak has kind of talked about, throughout this whole process, and in particular about Mike Washington, Vinny, it's the fact that he's still got a lot to learn. And it's more than just carrying the ball, finding the hole, hitting the gap, and running away from defenders, right? It's the pass protection, blitz pickup, assignments, motioning. There's a couple times in the passing game where Fernando Mendoza and him were not on the same page. I looked to that first game in Arizona, first incompletion for Fernando Mendoza. Mike Washington told me after the game, that one was on me. I didn't stay where I needed to be. I kept running. That one was on me. And it looked like a hospital ball from Fernando. When you first watch it, you're like, oh, man, that was a terrible pass from Fernando. Mike says that's 100% on me. You fast forward to the Houston game, right? The pick six. All eyes on Fernando. Bad pass, shouldn't have done it. Him and Mike Washington weren't on the same page. So getting those two guys on the same page, still a work in progress, obviously, but the growth that Clint has seen from him has been, quote, phenomenal. That's a good thing, especially with what happened on Sunday to Ashton Jeanty. So the fact that we will see him on Thursday is, I think, fun for the fans, but now what are you getting out of him? What are you looking for him to do against the 49ers?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think people might be underestimating, or I should put it this way. I don't like for Clint Kubiak to use the word phenomenal. That there's so much meaning in that. Like that's for him. You know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
an ultimate compliment
Clint
from him.
Kubiak.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's like break out the balloons and cake and everything like that. Like this is a party right here. This is people are doing cartwheels and things like that. Honestly, because he is. I've tested him a few times with some questions that I've asked, trying to get him to open up a little bit with the evasiveness, and he doesn't go there. He just doesn't go there, and I really respect that about him. And you're learning him and getting to know him, and and kind of understanding his ways. So again, for him to use the word phenomenal, that's meaningful to me about Mike Washington, which is a really good thing. And yeah, I mean things like not being on the same page right there with Fernando Mendoza, those are such blip on the screen things for me that it's to be expected. These guys, I know that they've been working together since rookie minicamp and all that kind of stuff, but it takes time for all of that, especially in a game. I mean, you're just everything, and both guys their heads are spinning right there because it's their first game in the NFL. There's going to be mistakes. There's always going to be mistakes, and you just got to minimize those mistakes. You got to learn from them. You can't be like you're talking about, Vince, a repeat offender. Mm-hmm. But everything I've seen so far from Mike Washington, arrows just pointing up. It's just it looks like a really good addition by John Spytek and the scouting department and everybody else that had a hand in that. And as of right now, what a godsend. What a stroke of good fortune that they had the foresight to go best player available right there, even in a room that looked pretty strong to begin with because you have Ashton Jeanty. But as we talk about over and over and over again, that thing changes in the blink of an eye, and did literally on Sunday when Ashton Jeanty came up hurt in that practice. It completely changed for the moment the dynamic of the running room and the complexion of the running room, and all of a sudden what looked pretty deep or pretty in really good hands all of a sudden looks a little bit more vulnerable today than it did. And so that's why when you draft, and I had this conversation with the Chargers GM in terms of drafting need over best player. And he said to me, 100% of the time you go with best player available. 100,000% of the time. He goes, because I don't care how you talk about positional depth. It changes all the time. And that's not even considering, oh, by the way, 2 of those guys are not under contract after this year. Like, you look at it, oh, well, great depth. But then you start realizing, yeah, but there's guys that might not even be here next year because they're not even under contract for next year. So there's a lot of variables to that. So a lot of credit goes to John Spytek and his group for kind of seeing beyond what it might have looked like on paper to understand, care how strong it looks. This guy's too good to pass up right now, even in a room that quote unquote was pretty deep, relatively speaking, to other rooms in the Raiders building.
702-365-9200 is the number. It is Wednesday, which means once a Raider, always a Raider. Jay Schroeder will be joining us in hour number 2. Adam Hill with the Las Vegas Review-Journal also in hour number 2. And then hour number 3, we're breaking down the film. Marcus Johnson of Tape Don't Lie at the 9 o'clock hour. Until then, 702-365-9200. We want to hear from you. What is the confidence level of Mike Washington Jr. toting the rock, at least for the short term, in the absence of and Ashton Jeanty, if it were to linger into the regular season? And as you look ahead to tomorrow's preseason finale, we're going to dive more into what Clint Kubiak had to say about certain competition, the position groups that are going to be on display. Who do you want to see Thursday in that preseason finale? Could be starters, could be backups, could be depth pieces, could be practice squad candidates. Who do you really want to see and keep an eye on Thursday against the 49ers in the preseason? 702-365-9200. We'll get your thoughts. We'll take your calls coming up next. But first,
hey guys, are you craving real Mexican food that's been doing it right for generations? If so, then it's time for Sal's Mexican Restaurant, a Central Valley tradition since 1942. We're talking about the kind of food that keeps people coming back. Stacked burritos, sizzling fajitas, legendary enchiladas, and those award-winning tamales that everybody's talking about. And here's the best part. Whether you're in Selma, Madera, or Fresno, Sal's has a location ready for you. Plus, Raider Nation, listen up. Sal's is always about the silver and black. Whether it's game day, fight night, whatever the occasion might be, this is your spot. If you can't make it in, no problem. You can get Sal's delivered straight to your door wherever you are. Just go to salsmexicanrestaurant.com. That's salsmexicanrestaurant.com and place your order right now. They'll deliver it to you wherever you are. Don't wait, don't settle. Sal's Mexican Restaurant, tradition, flavor, and Raider pride, served up fresh every single day.
Is off to the midfield, and he's into the secondary. Washington to the 30 and just tripped up at the Texans 25. Jalen Smith tracked him down to save a touchdown, but he bounced off for 32 yards.
Yeah, I think he's had a good camp, and we have to go see him play really good football on Thursday. But like you said, we got a lot of other guys that have to step up. Dylan, we got Himby, we got Dari. Omar's doing a great job coaching those guys and getting them ready.
Raiders head coach Clint Kubiak talking about Mike Washington Jr., the Raiders rookie running back, now thrust into the limelight, the spotlight, running with the ones the last couple days in practice. We will see him on Thursday, according to Kubiak. Another opportunity for that, quote, phenomenal growth to continue, get more reps, get more experience, if and when he is called upon to do so when the regular season bullets start to fly in 2.5 weeks' time. 702-365-9200 is the number. The question, how confident are you in Mike Washington Jr. taking the reins, at least in the short term? Who do you want to see Thursday night in the preseason aside from Mike Washington Jr.? Out to the phones we go. Salty Marine in Connecticut. Good morning. Welcome to the tailgate.
Good morning, guys. Can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear.
Yeah, Semper Fi.
Great. Fantastic show. Love you guys. Yeah, I'm confident in Mike Washington. I'm just not confident with 28 to 27 carries a game. I love the 1-2 punch with him and Jeanty, and I'm excited for the reps that he's going to receive this weekend. But I want to go with my boy Jeanty because they need a 1-2 punch, and this is the NFL, and you need as many healthy bodies as you can get, especially at that running back position. And I'll just add, this is probably the first camp I feel fantastic about Labby. Last two camps, I always felt like he was just a little on the small side, and then it would show up during the games, losing a couple balls here and there. But I think he's locked in, and I think that running back position is locked in, and they're going to get multiple contributions. I'll sit back and listen, and shout out to my boy Shields up from Connecticut. Thanks, guys.
Salty Marine, appreciate you.
Right.
The Connecticut crew just staying strong and unified. I like that. Vinny, it's interesting that, you feel today even better about the 1-2 punch of Ashton and Mike Washington that will be, right? And it still will be. But for now, seems like it's just the Mike Washington show, at least heading into Thursday night's preseason finale. Don't forget about Dylan Lobby, as Salty Marine put it, and Clint Kubiak mentioned as well. But, again, an opportunity for me. What I want to see Thursday from Mike is not just running the rock, because we've seen him do that. I feel pretty confident that's the other parts of the game that I want to make sure are on the P's and Q's. I pointed out the two, miscommunications with him and Fernando in the prior preseason games. Those necessarily weren't critiques. They just were what they were, right? Those were the rookie speed bumps that are inevitable this time of year. So it's not that I don't want to see that. I just need to see him get more of those to work them out.
Correct. And when you the higher you move up in life, from one level to the next, in whatever your profession is, the separation between good and bad, great and good, and all those things, becomes narrower and narrower, especially when you're playing against other really good teams. So things that you could get away with at a certain level, and whatever it is that you do, and we're talking about football here, doesn't fly in the NFL all the time, and the margins are so thin, and it forces you as a player. And we're going to get into this with the wide receivers because clearly there's some stuff going on with the assignments and all that type of stuff, right? And it becomes the difference between winning and losing, and being successful or not, and being an asset or being a liability. It really does. That's what separates, good from bad, great from good, all of that. And so for Mike, we talked in the previous segment about, hey, some things are to be expected because you are learning on the fly, and you don't have it all down pat just because you went from college and got drafted and now you're in the NFL. That doesn't eliminate the learning curve that you're going to experience. And quite honestly, everybody's learning all the time. So it's just what degree are you learning at, depending on where you are in your career. He needs to learn some of the finer points, especially when it comes to the pass game, and we've already seen a couple of situations arise. Okay, that's fine. Just can't have it keep happening, because it's going to be the difference in a completion, an incompletion, or worse, an interception. It will. I guarantee you that's going to be the case if he's not on his P's and Q's. And that's the same goes for Fernando or any quarterback. If you throw it an inch one way or the other, Vince, it could be disastrous. So it's just kind of smoothing out some of those finer points. But based on what I've seen, I feel much better about this situation today than if it would have happened, last year, or if you just didn't have Mike Washington on the roster. It would be time to be not just worried necessarily, but hey, maybe you need to go make a move to go bring somebody else in here. I don't think that we're at that point, other than for some depth or something, but not somebody to come in and say we got to find a replacement for Ashton Jeanty for however many weeks it's going to be. I think you have a suitable replacement in Mike Washington. There is always that little caveat, though. Still have to see it. We haven't seen it. So we haven't seen it in a real game. So until that happens, there is some question. But I feel less, apprehensive about it based on what I've seen so far of Mike Washington.
And I got to be honest, Salty Marine brought up Dylan Lobby, Clay.
Of course.
And that is also adding to a little that is adding to my confidence in this position group being okay in the short term for now. Again, for now. Big piece is Mike Washington Jr. But Dylan Lobby, look, I've talked about how much run he's gotten. Clearly, he's built trust within this coaching staff, within Clint Kubiak, this running game. right? It's very obvious. He's been sprinkled in with the ones all during camp. I know the Houston game, I think it was 6 carries, 37, 38 yards. I think Dylan Lobby had getting in the end zone, right? I understand those were against backups, right? So I take that with a grain of salt. But my bigger takeaway from that is Dylan Lobby's running the rock. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not just this third down specialist in those moments, and for me, that's building confidence for him. We talked to him, or I talked to him a week and a half ago, whenever it was, and he talked about this is the most confident he's been in the NFL. Confidence goes a long way, and when you gain the trust of your coaching staff, which he has undoubtedly done, and he's been such a core special teamer for this team the last couple of years, is going to be again this year, and is now building on that, is going to get a little opportunity to run the ball and be part of the offense now. That goes a long way, and that confidence really was high after that Houston game for him. Again, even though it didn't mean a lot for the quote, the team, because it was backups, and for him, man, his confidence right now is soaring, and what a time for it to be soaring with Ashton Jeanty on the shelf for the time being.
Yeah, maybe Lobby is the product of a better offensive line and a better offensive scheme when you think about his ability to now run the rock between the tackles, going up front, and more than just a check down receiver, more than just a guy who's going to be out on the flat getting a ball in space. So you're now you're able to see the development of a game out of a complete Dylan Lobby package. Right. But this is somebody that's, at least he can handle himself, and he's not the great mystery of rookies that are coming in or first-year players that we have not seen before.
And Vinny, I want to say this, not for nothing. I want to say this. We're not saying Dylan Lobby is going to be a 1,000-yard rusher. We're not. That's not what this is. We're saying in this moment, in this time, this feels like, one, a great opportunity for Dylan, and one where he's going to meet the moment. The other part of it is, not for nothing, this is one of the ultimate glue guys in terms of a locker room. Yeah. This is one of those guys that everybody has good things to say about in the room, right? So this is a guy people play for, people like, and that's not nothing at the same time. So when opportunity meets the moment, we'll see what Dylan does, but it feels like this could be this could lift a lot of different aspects.
Yeah, and if you're following along in training camp, when you say sprinkled with the ones, I would take it a step further. He's not the starting running back, but he's part of the starting rotation without question. You can see that happening in real time during training camp, unless things change. To me, obviously, they were preparing him for a role with the regular rotation. There's a package that they were putting in for Dylan Lobby. That's why he was getting in with the number ones in certain situations. Just look at the down and distance and where he was being brought in, when he was being brought in, and you're like, okay, it's happening so much now that obviously they're preparing him for that role. And a lot of it was, some of it was running, some of it was throwing it to him. He was going to be that kind of third down option kind of guy. Are you going to run it with him? Are you going to throw it to him? Is he going to block? There's all types of different things that he's going to come onto the field for on a regular basis. He's not going to be, hey, punt team, go out there, Dylan. Hey, kickoff team, da-da-da. It's be prepared, keep your helmet with you when the offense is out on the field, because you're going to go in at some point. Might not be a bunch of times, but you're going to get into this game as an offensive player, and they were preparing him for that, have been preparing him for that. And now I think until Ashton comes back, that role is probably going to increase a little bit, because you're probably going to with Mike Washington, there's probably going to be some situations that you're not going to just force him into before you're completely confident that he's ready to handle that part of it. Like running, replacing Ashton in the run game, I think the Raiders have built some real confidence in that. Throwing it to him and having him be a part of that, that's going to have to come. Whereas with Dylan Lobby, I think there's already a lot of confidence with this coaching staff that he's going to be able – they were already preparing him for that role. I think it's just going to increase a little bit. But, yes, Dylan Lobby is part of the equation, not as a quote-unquote starter, but he's in that starting rotation without question to me, unless something changes between now and the season opener.
702-365-9200. Out to the phones we go. Raider Reg back with us here on the tailgate. Good morning, Raider Reg.
Good morning. What's going on, fellas? Good to hear y'all. Good to be able to get through to y'all. Hey, I don't want to throw the show off the rails, but I got to give a shout-out to my grade school crush. Rest in peace to Miss Dolly Parton. One of the coolest people I ever met in life. Like, I was in the military and I got to meet her. And she was just an awesome woman, man. To be so small but so powerful is awesome. But with that said, man, this one thing I'm really excited to see is I was saying when we drafted Mike, I was all excited. And then I'm trying to find the video at the draft party where I was excited when they said Mike Washington Jr. And then I turned around and it didn't seem like people knew who he was. And I'm like, man, they don't know what we got right here. And now we're about to see. But here's the thing. I think the greatest part about it is Chef Spytek, man, being smart enough. Who would go get a running back like that at this point of the draft when you had Aston Jeanty from the year before? Nobody would really expect that. But to have a smart RB room and be able to sustain something like this, I hate that my guy Jeanty Deuce, I hate that he got hurt, man, but I'm praying that he come back quick. But the fact that we have the pieces we have and the offsetting, they're not the same type of runners. They're different. So if this O-line, back to what our real problem was, if this O-line hold it down and start making some moves to push forward, these running backs could excel while Jeanty gets better, and we won't miss a step. But also, shout out to the bad guys, Raider Nation bad guys. September 11th, we're going to be down at Fremont Street doing the Fandemonium. I will be getting down to my track, Fernando, and we're going to have a good time. And also, we get to open up for Too Short on Saturday, y'all. So if y'all in town for opening night, y'all need to come support that. And, hey, it's another track coming real soon called Defense. 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 And we talking capital D and the picket fence style.
Okay.
Let's go, baby. Raider Nation, stand up. Let's go.
Great stuff. Raider Edge. Defense with the fence. I love those
The
signs.
actual fence?
Those were the best. Those were the best. I always wanted one. Not to take anyway. I just wanted one for my room when I was a kid. Super weird, I know.
Yeah, they always seem like really good weapons. Like if you needed it, you know, the spikiness of the wood and all that.
It just was one of those things I felt like I needed to have. I was like, that looks awesome. I feel like I need. There we go. That's all right. There's still time.
There's still time.
I still got
man.
time.
Yeah, you're mending.
702. Fences mend. On the mend.
They are too.
How about that? 702-365-9200. Come out. We'll get more of your thoughts. We're going to dive into the offensive line, what we may see on Thursday. But first, Raider Nation, got a message for you. Get ready to raid PT's Tavern starting on Wednesday at PT's Gold at 903 East Lake Mead Parkway in Henderson. Join us and enjoy $3 Blue Moon and Coors Light pints, $4 Modelo pints, and $20 Topo Chico buckets. Baby! You could win free tickets to catch a game at Allegiant Stadium along with $100 Allegiant bar credit, $100 Uber credit, and team gear to wear throughout the game. Your home for football is at PT's Gold, PT's Place, Great American Pub, Lucky's, and Sierra Gold. Welcome back inside the morning tailgate. Raider Nation Radio 920 702-365-9200. Confidence, where's it at? With Mike Washington Jr. running the rock. Who do you want to see play Thursday? With that a bit of an unknown in terms of who's actually going to play, it does sound like we'll see some familiar faces on the offensive line. Here's Clint Kubiak when asked about the current competition between Jackson Powers-Johnson and Caleb Rogers, where that competition currently stands and what it means moving forward.
Yeah, it continues. You know, this game will be really important for that battle. I know both those guys are going to play this year. We're counting on both of them as well as a lot of other guys. So this competition has only made them better and our team better.
All right, so competition continues, and a big part of that competition tomorrow. Found that pretty interesting because we've been batting that around the last couple days Vinny and Clay.
Both playing.
Do we see them?
Mm-hmm.
Do we not? Because if you rest the starters and you rest one, well, you might as well rest the other because the other might be, or what do you do? Sounds like they're both playing. Your thoughts?
I think it's something that that needs to be done. I think they both need to see enough reps, and it looks like they haven't made a full decision on who they like better. Do you find that, Vinny? Like they're still kind of looking at what each one does, good and bad.
And I missed the first name. Who were we talking about here?
Caleb Rogers and Jackson
yeah.
Powers Johnson both playing.
Right.
I was in favor of seeing them play on Thursday earlier in the week with the again not knowing if they would or not. I wanted to see it because if this was truly a competition, as it has been, and the rotation has continued the last 2 days, it feels like you need that game in order to determine said competition.
Yeah, and that's why Jackson's injury last week, whatever that was so problematic because I think had he been able to play last week, maybe this would have gotten settled and we wouldn't have to get to this point where going into the last game and giving both of them an opportunity to win this job. So it is what it is now. It's obviously going to the wire, and it's hard to figure out what to make of all this. Part of me is also, like we talked about yesterday, the Raiders have to have Caleb Rogers ready to go at a moment's notice because unfortunately, and this year has already shown that, Jackson Powers Johnson, you want to count on him. You want to be able to believe that you're going to put him out there, and short of some kind of unfortunate incident, he's going to be out there. But he just hasn't shown the ability to be able to stay out there like some of his teammates have. So you almost have to play Caleb Rogers right now and throughout and prepare him as a potential starter, as we talked about that 5.5 fifth and a half guy out there because history has shown that player, whoever's backing up Jackson Powers Johnson, is probably going to have to play at some point.
And if you think of this logistically, pragmatically, if the competition is still ongoing, that means it's still close, right? Like that means the differentiation is not much right now.
And that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Right, which would tell you tomorrow's the final test.
Yeah.
Not to be dramatic, but if you're trying to get your starters figured out, feels like tomorrow is the final test, final preseason game. Final one before the practices get real. We'll continue the conversation.
Yep.
Hour number 2 here on the Morning Tailgate. Jay Schroeder, once a Raider, always a Raider, joins us next. There it is. It is that time of the week. One of our favorites. That music, goosebumps, hearing the voices of the greats, the legends. Once a Raider, always a Raider. Just hits a little bit different. It hits a little bit different this week as well as the Raiders Alumni reunion. The festivities get going tonight, but before the party, tonight, the game tomorrow, the Aces game, and the passing of the war stories and all that, we got to check in with our guy, friend of the program, 5 years in the silver and black, Jay Schroeder, QB1 Pro Bowler. Jay, good morning. Welcome once again. How we doing?
We're doing good. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic. The regular season is inching closer. Football's getting more and more real. And we have a lot of things to dig into, both in the present and the past, Jay. But I feel like we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't start with the quarterback position. And we heard Clint Kubiak yesterday say, that competition for the week 1 starter will continue. What that looks like tomorrow night remains to be seen. But Fernando Mendoza, your impressions of the number 1 overall pick and your thoughts of when we're going to see number 15 take the reins.
I'm very impressed. I got to watch him in practice, got to watch the preseason games that he's been in, everything else. He's very intelligent, very calm and cool player. So I'm impressed that he's taken leadership out there. When I was watching practice, he was putting guys in the right position as far as alignments, making calls, changing things, and all that. So he's hungry. Talked to the quarterback coach. He's works his tail off. He always wants to put in extra time. So I think he's going to be a good one. Is he ready to start week one? That's up for debate. You have to look at the team as a whole. And so far what I've seen, the overall operation of everything from all the coaches and everything, I like what I see. It's been an improvement all the way around. And I just, we'll see what happens with the quarterback position and where they want to go from there.
Jay, it's always interesting when you talk to coaches, when you talk to former quarterbacks like yourself, to define ready. Ready for what exactly? Because you really don't know if somebody's ready until they actually get out there, right? I mean, that's right. The truest test of whether.
That when he's ready. The kid was ready when he came out of college. That's why they picked him number one. Okay,
right.
if he's not ready, you don't take him. The question is all the surrounding pieces. Okay, right now, look, I think the Raiders are better personnel-wise than they have been in a few years, but they still don't have a number one wide receiver. They still have question marks at the offensive line. So the question is, you look at years past, and I'll bring Andrew Luck in because do you want to get him beat up? Do you want, struggle that way and learn that way? Or do you want to try to figure out what you have first and then try to make a good situation for him? I think they're trying to figure out what they have, what the situation is going to be, and give him the best opportunity to succeed.
We hear from guys like Tom Brady who talk about it's a tragedy how some teams force rookie quarterbacks to play immediately instead of letting them sit and learn. Where do you stand on that philosophy?
Well, there's no general assumption anywhere. You have to look at each individual organizations. Yes, some guys are forced to play because there's a new coach. They're like, hey, we got to get this thing. We're going to rebuild all that. And then there's others that, hey, we got a pretty good nucleus. Can we sit the guy, have him learn a little bit from the sidelines if he's willing to do that. But there's been cases, too, where guys have sat that, that's not how you learn the game. I am a big proponent. In order to get better, you got to play. And so at some point in time, you got to go out. You got to do it until you're out there under live bullets and realize how fast the game moves and all the things that you need to do. You just can't replicate that in practice. You can mentally take all the reps you want and everything else, but you got to, once those live bullets come, you got to be able to do it at that point.
We're talking to former Raiders quarterback Jay Schroeder here with us. Once a Raider, always a Raider on the morning tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. Jay, I'm not asking you to compare apples to apples because every player and guy goes through their own race. I'm just curious for you personally, looking back on your career, when did it click for you? And what was the last piece that fell into place where you're like, okay, I can play at this level and I can play at a high level?
Yeah, well, I was in a unique situation. So I was behind Joe Theismann, who was a staple and everything else. My rookie year, they brought in Jimmy Hart from St. Louis to be the backup as a veteran because Joe Gibbs didn't want, just some rookie, if something happened. Then my second year, I became the number two guy, and they let go of Jim. And we struggled, and, of course, Joe got hurt. And it really clicked, everybody in practice saw what I was doing, saw the extra work I was putting in on the other field, running scout teams and all that, because with Joe Gibbs, if you were a starter, you practiced with the starters, and that was it. They expected you to play. Mm-hmm. So it really clicked when I got in the game, and that first pass when Art Monk made a great catch down the sideline, everybody turned and looked, and it just turned everybody like, hey, this kid's got something. He thinks we can win, and we eventually did. We went on to win that game, so it was very nice.
Yeah, and that's so interesting that you were able to maximize your time, behind the scenes. How valuable was that for you? And did you ever have somebody, coaches coming up to you and saying, hey, keep at it because your time's coming?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Jerry Rome was our quarterback coach, and Jerry spent more time with me on the other field than he did with the first team offense.
Right.
You know, so
I'm sure they love that.
Jerry was out there running routes by himself, using the scuba gloves because I was tearing his hands up and everything else. So Jerry did a lot for me to get ready to play. So I was very appreciative of having Coach Rome.
And how important was the run game for your offensive success? Because we know you were paired with some greats, including Bo Jackson.
Oh, no question. When I got to the Raiders, run game was very successful. You know, it was funny because when I was with the Redskins, John Riggins was there my first 2 years, then he retired, and we really couldn't run the ball after that. We were throwing the ball quite a bit and everything else. But a run game is significant for any quarterback, any team. You got to be able to run the ball. You got to be able to play defense to go deep in the league, because at some point in time the offense isn't going to click, for a period of a game or two, and you've got to rely on getting some points somewhere, somehow. And defense and everything, the run game is a valuable benefit to have for every quarterback.
Jay, as we look at this 2026 edition of the Raiders, right? You were at practice. You were watching Fernando, obviously, with a keen eye. But when you were at practice and just the overall feel, the vibe, Clint Kubiak, year one, this is a guy that seemingly was built to become a head coach, whether it's the lineage or just the relationships, things of that nature. What was your biggest takeaway from your views, impressions from just being at practice and the overall feel of the team?
I was very impressed. It was very, I'm going to say, professionally run and conducted. Everybody was doing their work. And I'll give you a quick example. They were doing a team drill and threw a pass down in the end zone. I'm not going to name names. Rookie tight end went up and caught the ball, and he started doing all his gyrations, celebrating everything else. And Coach Kubiak yelled out, "That is the first frickin' play you made. Get back in the huddle. Let's go." And I was like, I like it. That's exactly right. Just because you make one play doesn't mean that you can celebrate. We got to do this thing on a consistent basis. So I was very impressed the way. As I said, the whole operation, watching the game operations, watching the practice operations, Coach Kubiak's doing a great job.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I like the lineage of him. He doesn't say a whole lot. We kind of joke around that he's a little bit economical with the words. I'm sure you've played with every sort of coach, the guys that were boisterous and demonstrative, the guys that, didn't say a lot but carried a big stick. Is there a preference, or is it just, hey, whoever you are, just be that?
Whoever you are, just be that. Okay, I went from Joe Gibbs to Mike Shanahan to Art Shell, and then I ended my career with Buddy Ryan. Okay, I mean, so you just got to take it as it is. But I will tell you this, and sometimes it's a good thing. Buddy walked into a team meeting and he says, "Guys, I'm going to take all the heat this week. You need to get ready to play." And he walked out and started ripping, how bad we were and all this. But he told us ahead of time. He's like, "I'm going to take all the heat." So everybody talked to him all week because he was, pissed off and everything else. And we just went about our business. So you've got to understand your head coach, his, personality. Mike Tomlin, you look at, the success he had. He was different, right? So let them be them. I think, you're not going to get a lot of words out of Coach Kubiak, which I think is okay. And, he's going to be himself and do it the way he wants to do it. And so far, I'm impressed.
When you take a look at this team and the personnel, what do you think could be ahead for someone like Brock Bowers? What makes him so special, and how could this third year also be something that could be really strong because he's matched up with Kubiak, who's offensive-minded?
Well, I mean, look, Brock Bowers is a unique talent. He has a knack, number one, of being able to read defenses and find the holes during zone, and then he's also athletic enough where he can get away on just about anybody on man-to-man coverages. So the question is, how do you get him in one-on-one, right? He's going to be the guy everybody's looking at, be a linebacker, safety over him a lot of times. So he's going to have to figure that out this year. And if they can figure out ways, to get him matched up one-on-one, he's going to have another big year. He's a phenomenal talent.
Jay Schroeder, once a Raider, always a Raider here on the Morning Tailgate. Jay, it is Alumni Weekend. It used to be the Alumni Game. It has turned into Alumni Weekend with all these different things going on. 300-plus former Raiders. And if I have this right, there is representation from every Raiders team from 1960 to 2021 that will be descending upon Las Vegas this week, which is just absolutely incredible. We marvel all the time about how much the Raiders take care of their own. Can you put into a better perspective as somebody who is one of those taken care of?
Yeah, there's no question. The Raiders do a phenomenal job. They lead, I think, just about every professional sports franchise in taking care of their own. If you think about it, having somebody from every team represented is unheard of. I mean, that means there's guys that are still around from that 1960 team, which, started it all for everybody. And they do a phenomenal job. All of them over there in the alumni department, and Mark, putting his stamp on approval on everything and doing this. It's a great time for us all to get together. It makes the Raiders different, and it is a family. Once you're here, I mean, you talk about they invite everybody back that's played one game. Okay, if you were in one game, you're a Raider for life. You represent, being a Raider, which is phenomenal. I've never got a call from Cincinnati. I was there one year, and it's like, nobody calls you from there, right? I mean, so other teams just don't do what the Raiders do. Not only do they do this alumni weekend, but they also, every year they do a free health checkup. The NFL has their programs where they go around to Super Bowl cities, and you can get this health checkup. Mark Davis brings that team in and brings everybody back just to make sure he's taking care of you health-wise too. So it is very unique and we are very, very appreciative of all the things that Mark has done for us.
You threw 5 touchdowns for the Bengals. You can't get a call? You can't. I mean,
get a call, man.
Let me ask you, and I'm not asking you to throw shade on the others.
And look, I talk to Carl Pickens all the time, over the internet and everything else, because we get in contact, and he's like, he says nobody calls me either. I'm like, okay, there you go. So I mean, I don't feel bad if they're not picking on, if they're not calling Carl.
I guess my question is when did you first realize that the Raiders organization was different from that aspect? What was it? Was it shortly after your NFL career? Like, how quickly did you realize it?
Well, I knew it was different the moment that I got traded. Okay, so going way back, I got a call at 12:30 in the morning after a Monday night game from Al saying that he finally made the trade, and my flight leaves at 8:00. I'm like, awesome, right? So I'm flying out there and everything else. But he just made you feel welcomed and that you were a part of something different from the very beginning. I think the Raiders have always separated themselves and made everybody feel something different, and this goes way beyond what everybody in professional sports does as far as taking it with all the alumni coming back and everything else. So to have 300 guys come back is phenomenal.
Jay, I want to take you back to one more football question on my end, and in regards to Clint Kubiak. And we talked about, not saying a whole lot, but carrying a big stick. He's been pretty pointed the last couple of times that we've talked to him about the wide receivers, about the need for somebody to step up, and he's still waiting for somebody to step up. Yesterday, he talked about he alluded to assignments that weren't being carried out correctly by the wide receivers and the need for those guys to clean that up, which, again, for somebody that doesn't say a whole lot, speaks volumes about what he's saying. From a quarterback's perspective, and I know it's you guys are trained to shoulder all of the burden. If it didn't work, it's my fault. That's just the way it goes. And give credit to everybody else when it does work. That's just part of the responsibility. But now that you're away from it for a little while, can you talk about that relationship between quarterbacks and wide receivers and the need for wide receivers to be as precise as possible in a game, and especially in a system that's such a rhythm-centric system that Clint Kubiak has in the passing game?
Well, there's no question. Okay, look, let's go all the way back. Look, let's be honest. Nobody cares if you change left guards, but if you change a quarterback or a head coach, that's major news, right? So it's always been that way in the NFL. The question with the wide receivers is very simply this, and I don't care who you are. Everybody says, quarterback's got vision. You can't see the whole damn field. Those guys are too big. They're too fast. There's so many moving parts. You have to have 100% confidence that guy's going to be in the area that you expect him to be, because you're looking one place, a second place, and you've got to quickly turn, and you've got a half a second at the most to decide if that guy's there and if he's open to get him the football. So a lot of that responsibility of getting into those zones is on the wide receiver. And that quarterback knows, hey, I'm checking the deep third first. I'm going to the flat. If not, I got to come back to the inside. I need that guy there. Some way, somehow, I have to have enough confidence that he's going to get there. And these young guys have to understand it's all the timing. With the quarterback, you can't be there a half a second too late. You can't be there early, because then everybody's going to come get you. So you got to know how to make it work. So I understand that. That's the philosophy that's been out there forever, and the passing game gets more and more sophisticated. Everything else, you have to understand the entire timing of the offense, and receivers need to know that more than anybody.
Oh, I love that answer. Lastly, for me, we just wanted to ask you, because we have so many fans in Raider Nation living in Southern California, what was it like, and what's your favorite memory of playing in front of Raider Nation at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum?
Oh, it was a blast. Look, I got a chance, I went to Palisades High School and UCLA, so it was a chance to come back home. I had my family there. I had all my relatives. I lived, in the LA area, in Manhattan Beach. Then I moved down to San Diego. So California is a great place to be, and it was a blessing to be there. And look, we got to play in the Memorial Coliseum, which is one of the iconic venues in the world. So very, very fortunate of my time there in LA.
Once a Raider, always a Raider. Jay Schroeder. Jay, we'll let you out on this one. Going back to Alumni Weekend, I know you probably look forward to seeing, a lot of your former teammates and guys that shared the silver and black. But it's also, if it can be extra special, it is. They're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first Super Bowl team for the Raiders, Super Bowl 11. Yeah. I think there's a half dozen or so members of that team that's going to be there. Do you have any memories of watching that game? Or just
I don't have any memories of watching that game. I do remember watching the Super Bowl, in the beginning of '84, because it was really funny because it was Washington playing, the Raiders and everything else. Right. But I was rooting for the Raiders, and then I ended up getting drafted by Washington. So, you kind of go back and forth and all that. But it eventually came where, Mr. Davis made the trade and got me there. And so I was very fortunate, no question.
Unbelievable. Jay Schroeder, once a Raider, always a Raider. Jay, we always appreciate your time and your stories. Thanks so much. We want to do it again sooner rather than later. We appreciate you. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Former Raiders quarterback Jay Schroeder hasn't got a call from Cincinnati.
Yeah, and he and Carl Pickens both denied. Well, that explains a lot. That does show you how different the Raiders are in comparison to everybody else.
I mean, think about that. Representation from every single team from 1960 to 2021, Vinny, are going to be here for tomorrow's preseason game and celebrated, honored, treated the way they should. It's incredible. It really is incredible. And so good on the Raiders and great stuff there from Jay. All right, 702-365-9200. We'll get back to the topic at hand with our next guest, Adam Hill with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, set to join us here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. But first,
hey, guys, when it comes to your weight, when it comes to feeling better, when it comes to aches and pains, just getting older or not feeling like yourself, how many times do you find yourself saying, you know what, I got to do something about all that, but I'll start tomorrow? And we keep saying that, right? I've done it. We've all been guilty of it. Well, guess what? Tomorrow's not necessarily coming. And here's the thing about that, and what's very, it's actually a good thing. You have an opportunity right now, today, literally today, with City MD. Or if you're tired of feeling sluggish, frustrated with your weight, dealing with daily aches and pains, or just not feeling like yourself, it's time to take control. City MD in Las Vegas offers personalized wellness and weight management programs designed for real, lasting results. But it doesn't stop there. City MD also provides advanced pain therapy and primary care, giving you a complete head-to-toe approach to your health. One team, one plan built around you. More energy, less pain, better health, real confidence. And here's the thing. Appointments are filling up fast. So stop waiting. Stop putting it off. Give them a call at 725-255-7246. That's 725-255-7246. Ask for our good friends Andy or Claudia, and they will take it from there. Or you could go to citymdphb.com. That's citymdphb.com right now and schedule your consultation. City MD. Stop waiting. Start feeling like yourself today.
Up with the Morning Tailgate 24/7 for streaming and podcasts. Get the LV Sports Network app, free to use and download. Now, let's get back to the Morning Tailgate.
Yeah, well, I think any position, it's when you go out and you have trouble with your assignments, I'm going to have a opinion about it, and it's not just them. We've had plenty of other guys that got to step up. A lot of young guys, and then guys that we're counting on in that receiver room. I think it's just like the guard position that those guys continue to make each other better. It's competitive, and and we know that all those guys are going to play.
Covering the Raiders with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, it's Adam Hill with the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Welcome back inside the tailgate. Raiders head coach Clint Kubiak talking about the wide receiver room and following up on his comments made last week following his time in Texas about how that group took a step back. Doesn't mean they can't take a step forward, but they're still looking for someone to be accountable, someone that can help them on Sunday. And to quote him, still looking. Welcome back in, everybody. From the Las Vegas Review-Journal, it is Adam Hill with us now here on the tailgate. Adam, good morning. A happy final week of training camp, preseason work for the Raiders. How are we?
We are good. We are moving on to a new phase, so that's always a good thing, right? And I did like Clint Kubiak saying, we need to find the guys that can help us on Sundays because that is the only day they are playing.
Right.
That's good.
Again, Vinny, Clay, and I have been kind of joking around how economical he has been with his pressers, not overusing words or. But he's been very intentional. He's been straight to the point. I want to get straight to the point with you. Ashton Jeanty goes down. He is, quote, on the mend. That is as official as it's going to get for some time, I would imagine. The confidence level in this offense kind of as it stands in totality. I think we all thought Ashton Jeanty and believe he's the focal point, right? But he goes down for however long it may be. How differently do you look at this offense sans Ashton Jeanty?
I think certainly it's a big weapon taken away potentially if he wasn't able to go. I think what it does, the biggest thing that it does is spotlight the lack of depth that's in that room. And obviously when you have Ashton Jeanty and Mike Washington's emerging, you're like, okay, there's something there. But then if you're looking at a room without Ashton Jeanty in it, in terms of the running back room, you say, all right, it's Mike Washington, and then you've got to count on potentially Dylan Laube with his 9 career rushing yards in 2 years, and Daria Gumawale, who has been around for a long time and done a lot of things, but isn't a superstar running back necessarily. And Roman Hemby, who's a rookie. Like the lack of depth behind Ashton Jeanty is very, very spotlighted when Ashton Jeanty's not there, and I think you're fine as long as he is. But when he's not, that room looks so significantly different.
Yeah, it does. And but first, before we get to that, I'm going to defer to Adam on this. Is it Sans or Sans?
Sans.
Or Sans.
I think it's Sans. I mean, look, if we're starting to get foreign language pronunciation on a Wednesday morning here, I think.
Well, you are Mr. Cheez-It guy. You are Mr. Cheez-It guy. I always thought it was Sans. Sans. Yeah, we won't get on. We won't get on the Cheez-It.
We can do the Cheez-It thing all you want, because I saw somebody write it wrong the other day, and I was infuriated. It was whose story was it? It was in maybe a Little League story. And they said
somebody wrote
Cheez-It
like, in a story. Oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah,
I need to read that story.
Yeah,
all right, so let's move on.
The story. Never Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its is not a thing. It's Cheez-It or Cheez-It crackers.
There you go. All right. Adam has spoken. All right, so we did talk about Clint Kubiak as a man with who is extremely economical with his words. But what that ultimately leads to is when he does say something, it has a lot more meaning than maybe somebody that's less than economical with his words. And when Clint Kubiak is as pointed as he's been with the wide receivers, and yesterday he brought up, things like assignments, and assignments obviously not being carried out to his satisfaction. He's going to have an opinion on that. He's said a lot about the wide receivers, and what's your sense of that room right now, and Clint Kubiak's obvious dissatisfaction with it?
Yeah, he's very not happy.
Right.
No, I'm just pulling a Kubiak. That's what I'm going to do. I'll do the 3 and 4 word answers, and this can be the interview where you guys have to ask 75 questions.
I kind of like that.
Because,
I was actually surprised at how long we were able to go yesterday. Even PR was like, "Okay, you guys can ask more," because he's not saying anything.
It makes transcribing much easier. It's a much easier task than it is to transcribe, say, a Bruce Cassidy, who
Derek Carr.
I've loved.
Derek Carr?
Yeah. Look, I loved covering Bruce Cassidy because you learned so much from every single time he spoke, every single day, every single presser. But at the same time, the transcriptions took you so long because he would start and stop and go in different directions, and it was all over the place. No such thing with one sentence Clint Kubiak on the transcription. It's great. No, I think I even kind of I think that was my lead today, if I remember correctly. It's I forget as soon as I turn a story in where I wrote, but I think it was, hey, Clint Kubiak doesn't say much, so when he calls out a position group, it's very meaningful. Like that he's doing it intentionally. It's not a mistake. He very clearly did that for a reason this week, and that was the day after the game last week on Friday, when he said, hey, we've got to get more, we've got to get better. We took a step back. It wasn't good. And I think that, certainly the message was heard. I know Trey Tucker, when we talked to him, said he heard what Clint had said, and, they know that they have to be better. They have to be more productive. But the part of this that is very obvious is that they never really addressed fully the wide receiver room. I mean, they signed Jalen Nailor. Obviously, they drafted Malik Benson, but they didn't heavily invest in that room. And I think you have, a good mix. We've talked about this. It's a solid group from top to bottom. There are some pieces there, like they can get things done. But what happens if you're going to go with that? If you're not going to go with like an alpha guy that's going to get all the targets, if you're going to try to get it done through a collective, everybody has to be playing at a high level. And like everybody has to come together, and everybody has to do their job very, very, very well. That's how you get it done with a collective. And if somebody is not, holding up their end of the bargain, or if multiple people are not, all of a sudden the collective doesn't work. That only works if everybody is coming together and everybody's doing it well. And that's kind of the plan right now. So I think Kubiak very clearly saw, like, hey, if this is how we're going to do it, we've got to get to a better level. We've got to get better right now. And he wanted to deliver that message. And I thought it was interesting that when Trey Tucker talked about it, he said it wasn't even necessarily, catching the ball or getting open or all those things. Like, they need to block better too. They need to be better in the run game. They need to help out, blocking downfield when Ashton Jeanty has it, or when Mike Washington has it, or even when, Brock Bowers catches a short pass, you got to block down the field. Like, they've got to do everything right from the run game to the passing game. If this is going to work, that's got to happen, and it just hasn't happened. And I thought it was very, very telling last week that Jalen Nailor was in the game as a starting wide receiver when none of the other starters were out there. I think that was a very strong message to at least one of the players that said, hey, we're going to need more from you.
When you think about what the waiver claim could bring next week, is that the position group at wide receiver that you think they look to fill at first?
I mean, potentially, but and they're going to be able to do that. With they have a very high waiver claim, obviously, and I think they can take advantage of that. But look, you need somebody that's good to be good. Like, you don't just bring a guy in to bring a guy in. If there are guys out there who will help you and have have an ability that you feel you need in your offense, like, yeah, you make that claim and you go out and get somebody. But it's a matter of somebody being available, right? You can't just decide like, oh, you know, we'd like the Bengals to cut Jamar Chase. Well, I mean, that's not going to happen. You need somebody that's going to help you, or that's better than the guys that you have to be on the wire. And I am certain that they are scouting every single wide receiver that's on the fringe of a bubble of a roster everywhere. And I'm sure they're thinking about trades as well. Like, you know, is there a guy that, you know, maybe they don't even have to wait on? They can just go get, like, is somebody available? But they do have a high waiver claim, so they don't really have to make that kind of a jump. They can get who they want of guys who are cut, but maybe they even want to go higher than that. Maybe they want to, you know, find somebody out there who they could bring in and you know, send out a pick or two in a trade, or even a current player, you know, make a swap and try to find a guy. But I think it's absolutely a room that they are, I think, very, very interested in trying to improve if they can.
It's Adam Hill with the Las Vegas Review-Journal joining us here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. All right, I want to go to a position we have talked about endlessly this training camp, and that's that right guard spot. Jackson Powers-Johnson gets hurt, does not participate in the Houston Texan activities. He's back in practice this week. The rotation between he and Caleb Rogers continues. Clint Kubiak says they're going to play Thursday. So if I look at this logistically and pragmatically and in every which way, it tells me it's still competition, which means it's still close, which means Thursday would be the final test. Whoever plays better Thursday seemingly wins the job, is how I'm looking at it. I want to get your 2 cents on how you're now viewing this final preseason game in terms of that position, and as a second part to that, organizationally, if you look at it from the macro, what's the bigger win? That Jackson Powers-Johnson wins the job and solidifies being a starter, or is it Caleb Rogers kind of rising up and taking the spot?
Well, I think, you know, organizationally, what you're happy about, I guess, I mean, it depends how they look at this competition. Have they looked at it as nobody has stepped up and won the job, or do they look at it as, man, they're both playing really well? Mm-hmm. It's tough to kind of gauge, but I think it you know, I think that they've seen a lot of positive out of both of them, and they've also seen some that they're like, okay, maybe not quite there yet. So I think that both guys have, you know, tried to make their mark on it. They just haven't been able to seize the position, which that's not the ideal scenario that you want to be in. You want, you know, somebody to have stepped up and just kind of seized it at this point. But yeah, I think Caleb Rogers winning it is for this current organization for sure. To say, you know, hey, we made a draft pick last year. He's developed and he's ready to go and he's ready to step in and take that starting role. I think that would be, you know, that would be probably better for this current group, probably. But what you want is somebody to just really, really play well. And I think you've seen out of Jackson Powers-Johnson everything that you've seen the last couple of years. You've seen plays where he just goes out and he's spectacular. And you love that, and you say, okay, why can't that happen every single play? And it just doesn't. And the inconsistency is what has killed them. The roller coaster of Jackson Powers-Johnson has killed them. I think both physically and emotionally and everything else. I think what they'd ideally want in a perfect world is Jackson Powers-Johnson to take those high-level plays and do that every single time. But it's been 3 years, and it just hasn't happened. So I think maybe the consistency of Caleb Rogers is a preferred option right now, potentially. But I do think Jackson Powers-Johnson has a higher ceiling. And so if he was able to live up to that ceiling, I think that would be what you'd want. We just haven't seen it. So will we ever see it? I don't know. I mean, it would be great for the team and the organization and everybody else. But I have not seen it. I know they have not seen it. And I think that's what they've been waiting for, and it just hasn't happened.
How much of this do you think also relates to the fact that Jackson Powers-Johnson just hasn't been durable and available? And so it almost behooves the Raiders to act as if Caleb is a co-starter, whether he starts or not, because inevitably he's going to have to play and he's going to have some chemistry with that those other starting four players.
Yeah, I think that all plays into it. That's part of the roller coaster with Jackson Powers-Johnson. It's the high highs, the low lows, the not being there, the being hurt, the frustrations. And I think, I'm sure he's personally frustrated that he can't be there. I'm sure he was frustrated that he hasn't been out there all the time. But I think that plays into that roller coaster, part of what he has been. And that Caleb Rogers is like, all right, I'm here. I can go up there and give you consistency on down-to-down basis, and that's just not what you're getting out of Jackson Powers-Johnson. So, yeah, I think that is a big part of it, and having him ready if they do go with Jackson Powers-Johnson as a starter, and knowing that Caleb Rogers got plenty of starter reps and got plenty of work with those other guys, I think that would be very helpful. I do find it interesting. Tyler Linderbaum the other day was talking about how they just need reps with the five. We just need the five that are out there. We need the reps, and that's how you get better as an offensive line. But then he was asked, well, what about when there's a competition? And he said, oh, that's really good because it builds the depth and everything. So, everybody's saying the right things. But, yeah, they've got – I think the other four have gotten plenty of reps with both Jackson Powers-Johnson and Caleb Rogers. I think they're going to be okay no matter who's in there. But, potentially seeing Jackson Powers-Johnson start, and who knows how long he can, stay healthy and be on the field and play at a good enough level, and then having Caleb Rogers ready to go, I think maybe the direction to go in. But I definitely think that position is still up for grabs.
I got one quick question about that. With Clint saying that this is a big game for that position, so obviously both of those players are going to play. Does that mean the other starters are going to play, or are they just going to be, rotating with the rest of the second team offense?
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think you're giving them the full, a full fair chance at the competition when if they're not playing with the rest of the starters. But I don't think we're going to see a lot of the starters. I feel like it's going to be like week one, where it might be like a cameo. That's kind of my impression of where we see. Yeah, it's good. That's my guess, but obviously the Kubiak's answer was not going to talk about that. So we'll see. But yeah, I think obviously we know that there's going to be an extended look for Fernando Mendoza. We know there's going to be the right guards in there. I would imagine we'd see both Darian Porter, who seems to have kind of moved up ahead of Hezekiah Matthews, but I think we'll see both of those guys. And the guys that are still competing, I think you're going to see. Maybe not extended action, but at least out there quite a bit. I feel like maybe a cameo from the starters, except for Matt Crosby, obviously, and then a lot of the second unit and the guys that are competing for a job, and then the second half is all guys that are fighting for those last couple spots on the roster or in the practice squad.
It's Adam Hill with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, spurring topics for the offseason. Best cameos in cinema history. Clay, don't let me forget that one. That's going to be a good one in
do you have a board?
Yeah, that's going to be a good one in May.
Well, maybe even bye week. Go early December, need a little break.
Vinny's cameo in the Raiders schedule release was pretty damn good too.
Oh.
But the goat kind of stole the scene.
That's pretty.
You
tough.
guys have no idea how much work that went into getting that goat to do you talk about a temperamental or an actor with attitude that brought just complete chaos to the set.
Vinny, you didn't even see it because you were in your trailer sipping your latte.
No, we were picking up. That goat was leaving droppings everywhere it walked too. That was the other the cleanup.
In our media room?
Bro, I think it was your seat.
Dirty little secret.
I think it was your seat, Adam. Adam Hill with the Las Vegas Review.
All over.
Adam,
yeah, you might want.
Adam, we appreciate you. We'll check your seat for droppings. And
I don't like how this ended.
We'll see. We'll see you tomorrow. I think it's a perfect way to end. Adam Hill, Las Vegas Review-Journal, with us here on the Morning Tailgate. Adam, appreciate you. 702-365-9200. Get some more of your thoughts next on the Tailgate. Welcome back inside the Morning Tailgate. Raider Nation Radio 920. It is a tough. How do you view it? Rogers, JPJ. If the starters aren't in, yet they're playing extended time, how much are you really able to glean from their performance? Right? Because then at that point, you look at it, Vinny, and it feels like you're just trying to gauge in terms of just their specific performance. You're not looking at team rushing totals, right? You're looking at their specific performance and seeing who executes their assignment best is kind of how you look at it, right?
Yeah, who executes the most the most best reps, right?
It really feels like you're taking a tally, like play in, play out. Who won that one? Okay, he won 5. of his 8. Let's just call it right. He won 6 of his 8. Is that how we're determining who starts week 1?
Well, it's also because there are some layers to this. I mean, who's carrying out their responsibility? Who knows where they're supposed to be? Who's on the same page? You know what I'm saying? It's gonna.
That's what I mean.
I don't know that it's going to come down to who executes the best block more.
But I mean,
often.
I don't know how else you do it any other way, because if they're not getting time with next to Tyler Linderbaum and DJ Glaze, you can't gauge both of their cohesiveness, the chemistry, that communication. So in terms of, I'm just talking about tomorrow in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, there's a notebook
and
on what they've done leading up to this. But if it's still this close and it's still a competition and you're still trying to find a winner, this has weight in it. And so that weight has to come down to something. How are you gauging that? That's kind of how I'm trying to figure out. How is Rick Dennis looking at that?
For sure, and honestly, it has less to do with who's to the left of him or who's to the right of him, because at any given time in any given game, that's subject to change anyway. So this will be independent of the surroundings around them. And what are you doing? How are you handling this opportunity to go out there and put your best foot forward? And we'd be remiss not to mention there's still another week and a half or so of practices.
Understood.
Also, but I mean, Clint Kubiak and the economics of his words. He said this will be, I think, did he say critical or very important?
A big game in that competition. This is going to be
an
important game in this competition.
That's his own words. So that we will take him at his word, and he's given us no reason to not.
We're going to continue to spotlight the O-line, the running backs, the wide receivers. Coming up next is Marcus Johnson. Tape Don't Lie here in the morning.
He's pouring over the film day and night. It's Marcus Johnson from Tape Don't Lie on YouTube, here on the Morning Tailgate.
It's hour number 3 here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920, the flagship for the silver and black. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignore, and Clay Baker coming to you live from Las Vegas here on a Wednesday, August 26, 2026, hour number 3, which means Tape Don't Lie. Got to break it down. Marcus Johnson. Marcus, good morning. Welcome once again. A lot to get into, but I know Ashton Jeanty is the lead of the week, but I want to get into the offensive line because we heard Clint Kubiak talking about how the competition continues at the right guard spot between Jackson Powers-Johnson, Caleb Rogers, and when he says it's going to be an important game for those two in that competition, obviously that leads us to believe that they're going to be playing in Thursday's preseason finale. So, a couple questions for you. What have you seen from each player this preseason / training camp? How would you rank them as it stands today? And how are you going to judge what they do or how they do it, despite not probably having a lot of starters in the game on Thursday night?
I'll start with JPJ. I thought one thing I noticed about JPJ, just watching him in camp and in film, is that his technique's better. I think he's improved there. I think he's finally found a way to get his pad level down, and I think that's the first thing I noticed about him on film is that he, his first few years, he's kind of standing straight up a lot. His pad level is a whole lot better this year, and that goes to the coaching staff, in my opinion. So I feel like he's being coached up, and if JPJ has his pad level right, that's why I would always feel like you probably have to go over him over Rodgers, because then the talent just comes into it, right? So his pad level has improved. But Caleb Rogers is having a good camp, too, as well. So that's why I feel like there's still a competition there, and they probably have to play it out because JPJ ended up missing the game last week. And I think Caleb Rogers had that chance to kind of take that job from him, and I don't think he did that. I think Caleb Rogers kind of had, especially in the run blocking department, especially early on in the game, I think there were some times where he made some mistakes, and I think that kind of played into it. Like, he just didn't have that performance that he had week 1. So because week 1 he played really well, and I think he maybe outplay JPJ a little bit during week 1, but I think when he had the opportunity to kind of go out there and just fully win the job, in my opinion, so I think if he went out there and he duplicated what he did week 1, he wins that job, and I think he'd be out there a little bit more. But I was reading some reports that JPJ is taking the majority of the first team snaps right now, So, and, Caleb Rogers is still working in there, but I think JPJ really has that, he has a chance to be the starting guard week 1. I feel kind of more confident in that going into it. And I think it's because Caleb Rogers just didn't take that job from him. And I think if you can fix JPJ's technique, you have a player that has the Pro Bowl talent, right? That's the reason why he was expected to go first round. All those things are there. I mean, he was expected to be a first-round guard. I mean, that was the buzz going into the draft. When he went to Senior Bowl, he dominated the Senior Bowl. He's just a talented player. So if you can fix his technique and get him going that way, there's just more potential there. And that's why I think that they're going to lean to JPJ, especially since Caleb Rogers didn't really take that job with the Texans.
It's in terms of Clint Kubiak not naming a starting quarterback right now. I think it's a little bit of coach speak going on, but who knows? Maybe not. Maybe Fernando actually does have a chance to win this job, and that would lead me to think. And even though Clint's not come out and said for sure who's playing and who's not playing Thursday night, I'm expecting Fernando to play. Do you? And how much do you expect him to play? And also, what kind of step forward can Fernando take, even if it means, even if that comes with maybe closing the gap a little bit on Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I think Fernando's going to play. I think he's going to play probably maybe the same amount. I think he's going to play that much. I just feel like that's what preseason's for. And if if that's the plan and you're planning on starting Kirk Cousins week 1, like what are we resting him for? That'll kind of be my question. Like if that's what your outlook is and that's how you're looking at it, that Kirk Cousins is the starter, even though they haven't really announced it, then Mendoza needs to play because that's where he gets the reps. I mean, you answered that question and said that he needs reps. Then why won't we give him the reps if you feel like he's not going to be a starter? So I really see him kind of playing in the first 2 quarters, kind of the same thing that he did last week, and hopefully that's what the expectation is for them if they want Kirk Cousins to be the starter. But I think only way Mendoza could win this is, it kind of reminds me, take it back to like Derek Carr in 2014. Like going into that 3rd preseason game, like we all thought Matt Schaub was going to be the starter. I mean, it was pretty. Matt Schaub didn't even play, right? That's the final preseason game, or the 4th one back then. But Matt Schaub didn't play at all. Derek Carr got to play the whole first half, and he went out there. He threw 3 touchdowns, right? And I think Derek Carr won that job that night, and that's what Mendoza would have to do. He'd have to have a game like that where he just comes out there and he's just tearing people up and makes them feel comfortable. Where it just is where you put it out there that I'm going to be the starter. I'm ready to be the starter. And I think having throwing that interception and some of those things, it kind of left it up to Kirk Cousins to be that guy at this point. But that's what Mendoza would have to do, because that was what I remember. Going back to that moment with Derek Carr, is like nobody thought Derek Carr was going to be the starter week 1 until after that game, and it was just where everybody was like, it has to be him. So that's the kind of game that Mendoza would have to have.
All right, then if Mendoza has a handful of series on Thursday against the 49ers, does he need to make explosive plays, or does he just need to avoid the big mistake?
I think he needs to go out there and play comfortable. I feel like one thing that I kind of see from him on film that I would critique is that he's a little bit robotic at this point. And I think this happened on the interception, is that he expected Mike Washington to be there no matter what. And, Mike Washington was moving because Mike Washington was playing natural football. You see my quarterback kind of drift. I'm going to drift into his vision. And while Mendoza's thinking, that guy's going to stay right there. So I think he's got to have kind of be more, not say comfortable, but just let loose a little bit. Just kind of just go out there and just play. Right. And then and that's going to create explosive plays if he does that. And I still think he has created some explosive plays. We just haven't seen that 50-yard deep ball or anything like that. But I think they have to bring those opportunities, for him to make those plays, too, because you really haven't seen that from, just even the play calling, in my opinion. I don't think they've really tried to stretch the field that much when he's playing. And they've kind of kept it to, intermediate passes and things like that. And I think intermediate passes can create explosive plays, too, especially if you run them well. You hit players in stride and with anticipation. You get a play like what happened with Jalen Naylor, which it ends up being maybe a 13-yard throw altogether, but it turns into a 22-yard gain, which is an explosive play because of the timing and all those things. So you can kind of do that without, throwing the ball down the field all the time. So that's why he's got to have that feeling of just, sometimes, roll out, make a play, some of those things, show off his athleticism a little bit, which I think he was doing more week one. And I think him take some of those hits, and they probably coached him up on it. And sometimes, even though you're getting that coaching, you still got to go out there and just play football and just be yourself. And I think that's what he's got to kind of learn a little bit is not to be robotic out there a little bit, and knowing, like I understand that where everything is and what you're supposed to do, but sometimes you just got to go out there and play football too as well.
It's Marcus Johnson. Tate Don't Lie. Follow him on the X at the Mark John NFL. With us here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. All right, Clint Kubiak doesn't say a lot. When he does, we listen. He had some words, choice words, talking about the wide receiver group taking a step back last week. When he sits there and he says yesterday, when guys aren't on assignment, I'm going to have an opinion. For a guy that doesn't say a lot, that felt like he was yelling at everybody in the media room. I'm going to have an opinion. Rightfully so. When you hear that, guys aren't on assignments, what does the tape say that you've seen from these receivers? What are they not doing? What are they missing? What is the fix?
I think there's a couple of plays, and I think it's a lot of it is coming from, what's happening on film with some of the timing. I think a lot of the guys, when they're running some of their routes, they're not matching up with the timing of the play, right? And I think like a great example is, where Fernando Mendoza, he threw the ball like under pressure. He ended up missing Jalen Naylor, like just by inches. Jalen Naylor had to dive, kind of do a one-hand dive. I think Jalen Naylor, when he was running that route, he basically was kind of messing around too much and kind of messing up the timing of it. So he wasn't where he was really supposed to be when Mendoza was throwing that football. And it's small things like that is happening with what I would say the wide receiver group. And when you're Clint Kubiak, and I've been stressed about this whole week on my show, though. Like when you get a wide receiver on a safety, like that's what you've been dreaming of when you're actually cooking up something. You got a wide receiver, and you have your starting wide receiver against a safety, and he doesn't win, and then it ends up being a pick six afterwards. I'm sure that's a lot of that kind of is all tied together into what's happening, because that's what's really happening out there. Like you even see, I even saw kind of Malik Benson in that game. You can tell he's thinking too much. Like he's not just out there playing. I mean, when you saw him in camp, he's just out there just getting open and just playing football. And I that's what I kind of talked about, just the mood of what was happening out there. Is that, but when he's playing in the game, it felt like that he is kind of just thinking too much. Like, okay, like I need to make sure I run this route perfectly, which is like kind of leading to some of his drops. And he only had one drop all last year, and we already saw at least almost three that I've seen on film already. So you could tell that he's out there thinking too much, and I think like it's making Kubiak worried, because it's like, who do I put out there? That I mean, can I only put out Jack Besh out there? Is that the guy that I have to put out there? And I think Jack Besh is looking to have a certain role in his team, and he might have to have a bigger one now with how everything's looking. And you can tell how Kubiak's feeling, because you do see it on film. You can see these guys kind of being off in timing. And another great example is the first throw that Mendoza threw, where it went over Jalen Naylor's head. He was kind of dancing too much and kind of messed up the timing of it. It's a three-step drop. It's just everything was kind of messed up that way. And that's, to me, when he's talking about like assignments and things like that, that's what I see. I see like these guys not kind of dancing too much or thinking too much when they're out there, and that's kind of tied into Kubiak being frustrated with the whole group.
Conversely, the secondary to me, the young secondary to me, played a much better game against the Texans than they did the week before against the Cardinals. I really liked what I saw from Traden Stukes. I liked where Jamon McCoy was in terms of his positioning. Even Dalton Johnson played well. Zeke Massis continues to play well. What's been your impression of the young secondary, especially the growth that they showed from week 1 to week 2?
Yeah, it shows that they bounced back, and I think in week 1, I think they kind of faced a little bit more physical wide receivers, in my opinion. So I think, I think Jalen Brooks is a pretty good player too. He's kind of a little underrated, and he's not getting the playing time, but in the preseason he's kind of running some great routes, and I really think they kind of ran into him and him having just being a very savvy route runner. Because this week I thought they all played better. I thought Traden Stukes is excellent. I mean, that's what's kind of put him over IPM, and IPM sat out the whole game. I mean, if you're thinking that in your second preseason game, you're like, I'm the starter. And then now you get back to on Monday, like your job's taken. So I think that's where Stooks really showed out because he had a great game. Like he was everywhere, blitzing, tackling, even got some reps in the slot. And the one completion he gave up, he was still right where he needed to be. He almost broke that up. It was just a great timing by the quarterback and the wide receiver. So he was all over the field. Hezekiah Massis was excellent. He gave up one catch for 1 yard, and he was targeted 4 times. And then there were legitimate targets. There weren't targets like, somebody throwing the ball away. I mean, they were all legitimate targets, and he was just all over those guys. You saw him be a lot more physical, which, something he pointed out that, he wanted to be able to show off that he can tackle. He made a great tackle on a screen. And then, McCoy bounced back too. The one, reception he really gave up was basically like a great throw. And then he had a great play on the sideline too. But of course, he got the taunting there. But yeah, he looks a whole lot better too. So like the future of the secondary, because even Dalton Johnson had a good game too. I thought he played really well. And so you see the future of the secondary and what they actually could be in a couple of years, and these guys grow together, right? Because even if Darian Porter or Masters or one of these guys doesn't work out, you still have 3 or 4 guys there that could really grow and become a dominant secondary. I mean, you have the pieces there, you have the talent. You saw McCoy's talent all over the field there this past week, and then you saw Hezekiah Masters, who has that talent, who I thought was a steal because I thought he was a third-round guy. So you have the talent all around them to really become a great secondary, and it's exciting to watch because if they become a great secondary and they just build up the trenches a little bit more, and they get some maybe some more talented defensive tackles here, like in the draft next year, or even in free agency, you have that what I would say pathway to have a top 15 defense. So I think it's all there, and all of that secondary really has me excited watching those guys.
Okay, then maybe a scale from 1 to 10. What's your concern level for the defensive line as you start approaching Miami week 1?
Against Miami, I'm really worried, so I'm going to go like 4.
Okay.
Whoa.
All right.
If one thing Miami's going to do, they're going to run the ball, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing I'm nervous about, and I think we got to see a little bit more. But I think getting Fatukasi in here was pretty big. I think that's the guy that they really needed. They really needed a guy who, even if sometimes he can get blown back because he's trying to penetrate all the time, but they need that type of guy who is aggressive like Max Crosby against run defense, because that's what Fatukasi is.
Right.
I think maybe he can kind of change it a little bit and bring that life, because Max Crosby's aggressive against the run, but Fatukasi kind of brings that same kind of mentality where, like, sometimes, like, as a DT, he might not be the highest graded guy. You can kind of see it, like maybe that's why his PFF grade kind of gets hit a little bit, because he's trying to shoot gaps. He's trying to make a play on defense, right, and against a run, and that's where you really see him kind of become that guy, and why he can match Max Crosby. So that might help a little bit, but it's just Miami does have me worried, because if one thing I know Miami's going to do is they're going to run the ball. I mean, Malik Willis and Achane are going to be out there really just having at least like 40 touches and them running the ball a lot, and that's really what the Raiders' weakness seems to be right now. And that's why I'm a little worried about that game, because if they're running the football, I mean, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. They want to have the football to play. So it's very important for a guy like Fatukasi to kind of take that step and really become that starter, in my opinion. I hope he does, because they really need that beef up in the front. They need a guy who's going to make some plays on defense, and then Adam Butler can play his more natural role of just playing, rushing the passer and things like that. So it's really big for him, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm really worried about that Miami game, because I know they're gonna. Miami's just watching the film of them in the preseason. I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we do best anyways. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting how they attack that.
Marcus, we're going to put that at the top of the list of things Raider Nation did not want to hear. Marcus, week 1 is supposed to be the gimme for the Raiders. You're telling me they're going to run all over the D-line? Oh, what a disaster. We got 2 weeks to rectify that. Marcus. That's great stuff, though. I really like Fatukasi, because I just thought it was because he just hated the Houston Texans for getting rid of him. But it turns out he could be a guy. Might be an answer. We'll see. Might be an answer. All right, Marcus, because we're not going to be able to talk to you until after cut down day, right? So as we start, early projections, especially with you here, is there names that you've seen on tape they're like, this guy's going to make the team that we're not talking about?
Yeah. I would say there's a couple guys that I think are going to be sneaky making this football team. I think one, a lot of people talk about Patrick Johnson, but I think Brandon Johnson might be a sneaky guy that makes this football team just because his feeling of what's happening in the wide receiver room, and he's not having those problems that the other guys are having. Like the timing's perfect. Like the pass to O'Connell, I mean, he ran that route with the timing that Kubiak wants. And if he's out there doing some things that are like that, he might end up sneak his way onto this football team. And it all depends on how many linemen they keep. So I think that's going to be interesting to that. But that's just maybe a sneaky guy there. And I think, on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, I know Patrick Johnson is that guy that might have, because they need some kind of pass rush, right? It doesn't matter, who it's coming from. That might be a guy there. But, I think a guy who's playing really well, that's kind of sneaky, is Gary Smith. I think Gary Smith is playing well. And you really saw that in the comeback because, on the All-22 from NFL Pro, it got kind of funky there. You really can't see it too much. So people can't. It's hard for us to show it to you guys, especially Matt. I know Matt was so frustrated with that. But Gary Smith is playing really well. He is. And he like, if we're talking about stopping the run, I mean, that's why they were able to have that comeback, because the Texans couldn't run the ball.
Right.
And a big reason. And Brandon Cleveland, too. Those guys aren't playing bad. I mean, they're actually kind of showing what they were drafted for, which is to play that nose tackle and stop the run. I mean, that's why they brought those guys in. And those guys have been impressive. I mean, you saw kind of what the second team is looking like. You wonder what Gary Smith and those guys would look like if they got to play against the ones or something like that. Like, what would they be doing if they got their chance to be out there? Because that was a big part of the reason why the Texans couldn't move the ball and they couldn't do anything, is because how Gary Smith and those guys are playing in the second half. And I think that's a sneaky guy for me, is just because it's been back-to-back games. He played well in the first game, too, him and Brandon Cleveland. Brandon Cleveland had a tackle for loss, a nice play that he made. So you wonder if those guys end up sneaking on the football team because they're young and they're actually playing well. It's kind of not being seen because, when you have a run-stuffing guy like Gary Smith, his job really isn't to really make tackles all the time. It's to kind of keep the other team from having those gaps and making somebody cut back and a linebacker, and he's doing that really well. So I think that's a sneaky guy on defense for me, is those two guys making the football team, wouldn't surprise me.
All right, real quick then, because you've piqued my interest now. You said Brandon Johnson. How many wide receivers are you keeping? And more importantly, who are you not keeping?
I mean, that's the thing, because I think they might go with less linemen than we think. I think they might just go with 8, because they have a solid 8. And I think that they might just go with that because, how many do you suit up for the game every single week, right? So if they keep 6 wide receivers, I think that might be a possibility, because I think them keeping more wide receivers is going to be more about how they feel about the wide receiver room, because they feel like they might need some, like a deeper look at some of these guys. Because if Jalen Naylor doesn't end up playing like how they want to play, like they might have to go deeper into the bag to find those guys, and then you don't have to worry about them getting on the waiver wire and things like that, and somebody picking them up before you put them back on the practice squad. So I think they might end up keeping 6. I think they're going to keep more of that, and maybe keep 1 less lineman.
So is that Naylor, Tuck, Besh, Benson, Johnson, obviously, Derek Young, and Thornton, I guess? Thornton seems like he's an IR candidate now at this point.
Yeah, because I think they might stash Thornton. I think they might stash him just because he hasn't played all whole camp, and it's easy for them to stash him and let somebody else play on the football team. So, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking those guys, because they got to keep Young, too. He's a special teams guy. And that's where it plays into it as well. Is, he basically made the team when he signed because he's a special teams guy. So even though he's not making any plays in the preseason, he's already on the football team. So you got to see how that goes with him. But, it's going to be interesting to see what they do at wide receiver and how they keep those guys. But I just think, Brandon Johnson is playing well, and he's making some plays out there. And he's running the offense. And, you hear about the coach talking about assignments. I mean, Brandon Johnson doesn't have that problem. So that's when a coach like him, that's why I feel like Spencer Burford's playing a lot, because he doesn't mess up assignments either. And that's what type of coach that Kubiak is. He's meticulous. And if you don't mess up anything, you're going to play.
I'll tell you who's caught my eye, and that continues to be Kion Sloan and Cody Lindenberg. What's the film been saying about those two young linebackers?
Yeah, I think what Sloan is doing out there is I think he's being consistent. He's finding ways to get pressure. Motor guy, right? And you see the athleticism. I still think there's some things that he's got to get better at. But I think he's playing the run really well. I think that's what we saw from that whole third team, right? I mean, their third team defensive line went out there and they're impressive because they were able to stop the run and they were able to make those plays. And I think that's what you're seeing from Sloan is why he has a chance to really make this football team, because I think he's outplaying some of the guys that are in front of him, in my opinion. So I think he has a real big shot to get out there and make it. But, when I say with Cody Lindenberg, I think what happened with Lindenberg more often, I think he still did play, pretty well at linebacker. I think just what the defensive line was happening in front of him, they're just getting blown back right into him, and there's not too much you could do. And if you're a young player, sometimes you are going to make some mistakes, and if you have the defensive line in your lap too, you're going to be making a lot of mistakes. So I think that's why it wasn't too much on him as much than it was on the defensive line getting blown up. But I think, going back to Sloan, I think Sloan has that pathway because, like I said, he's been consistent, right? He got the sack the first game, and then, you come out there and you play the run really well. You set the edge, right? You go out there and help make that comeback, right? By getting that pressure on the quarterback, doing those things. I think he's out there playing really well, and that's going to kind of really show that why he could make this football team and kind of be that player. Because I don't think anybody really in front of him besides, and then you're not going to cut Kieran Crawford. So, like, anybody in front of Sloan is not really outplaying him. So there's really no reason for you not to keep him. And then, the sad injury that happened to Brennan Jackson, that really gave him a great pathway to make it on his football team. So, he has to. I think he has a good chance to make his football team because he's been consistent in the first two games.
Marcus Johnson, Tape Don't Lie. Make sure you go up to YouTube and subscribe to Tape Don't Lie for their fantastic content. Happens so often. We kind of get lost in the shuffle, but what you guys do such a good job of profiling players and seeing trends and patterns that maybe we don't see. What's in store this week?
Yes, we got we went over basically asked to get a cool little questionnaire with the fans. So we just posted that. So we may go ahead and check that out. We answered fans' questions for about an hour. So, just our thoughts and our opinions about what's going on and, surprise cuts and things like that and what's happening with Jeanty and, how Mike Washington's, what his outlook's going to be for the season. So kind of just went over that. And, of course, we do Friday Night Live and then also do the instant reaction to the game. And then we'll do some film this weekend and then talk about the cuts as well. So we got a whole busy week and then get ready for Miami.
Dynamite.
Marcus Johnson, you are a gift to Raider Nation. We appreciate you. Your insights, breaking down the film, doing the duty. We appreciate you. We'll talk again next week when Raiders roster will look a little different. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, Marcus Johnson. Speaking of gifts, Raider Nation, get ready to raid PT Taverns starting on Wednesday. PT's Gold, 903 East Lake Mead Parkway in Henderson. Join us and enjoy $3 Blue Moon and Coors Light pints, $4 Modelo pints, and $20 Topo Chico buckets. You could win free tickets to catch a game at Allegiant Stadium along with $100 Allegiant bar credit, $100 Uber credit, and team gear to wear throughout the game. Your home for football is at PT's Gold, PT's Place, Great American Pub, Lucky's, and Sierra Gold. Welcome back inside the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. Want to make sure I add probably the most important part. Unnecessary roughness today from 2 to 5 with your boy Q. We'll be at said PT's where those specials will be had. $3 Blue Moons, Coors Lights, $4 Modelos, and $20 Topo Chico buckets. 903 East Lake Mead Parkway in Henderson. Join Q and your friends here at Raider Nation Radio 920 as you can win free tickets to Allegiant Stadium, bar credit, Uber credit. Thanks to your friends at PT's. I didn't get the invite to go to PT's. Well, I guess I just did by reading it, so maybe I'll go.
So you get a chance to win tickets, bar credit,
and Uber credit
at Allegiant Stadium, and an Uber
credit
back and
is
forth.
Sneaky good stuff.
That's really nice. That's thinking of everything. I love this.
Well done. So join Q today from 2 to 5. Unnecessary roughness to get in on those specials at PT's 903 East Lake Mead Parkway right here on Raider Nation Radio 9:20. Hey, a little, I guess, breaking news. Calem. Thank you. Topps.
Yeah.
You know Topps, the cards.
Yes.
Debut patches are coming to the NFL. Beginning this season, all NFL rookies will wear a debut patch on their jersey.
Oh, man.
I don't know why that's funny. I didn't say joke. After players make their on-field debut, the patch will be removed from the jersey and placed into a one-of-one autograph trading card.
Yeah.
These cards will be inserted into sealed packs released in 2027.
Oh, let the frenzy begin, right, Vinny?
Hey, I always
better than bubblegum.
I always say this too. For whatever you want to say, as an NFL player, you get around 50% of the revenue. That's how the salary cap is determined. So if this drives up the revenue,
sell.
if it drives up the revenue, it's a good thing for your bottom line as a player. Yeah, I mean that's where all of this is headed, and it's all fine and it's all good. It's why we have all these alternate uniforms. I travel all over the NFL, and the amount of different jerseys I see for one particular team at a stadium. You go to Seattle Seahawks games, and it's like the University of Oregon. Yeah. You see so many different versions of jerseys. I'm still partial to the Dave Craig era, back in the day. Love those Seattle Seahawks uniforms, but there's been about 1 million since then, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. There's one team that doesn't do all that, and that is the team that we cover.
The Raiders. Well, when you have something so good, you just don't need to. Didn't they do like a premier patch or something last year, Clay? Didn't they do something similar to this?
Oh, I don't remember that.
It looked funny because the patch was big. I'm looking at this patch, this debut.
These are big.
It looks sweet.
Yeah.
It looks cool.
Because then it identifies a game-worn jersey, the rookie status. It has everything that Topps wants you to feel.
Yeah.
Like this is the most exclusive thing in the world, and you have to have it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because the picture that they posted is Fernando Mendoza wearing. It's a AI-generated image of it, so that's what drew me to it. One, but the patch doesn't look too bad. I'm looking. I think there was a premiere. And, yeah. Anyways, hey,
let me ask you guys
something. Whatever sells. Go ahead.
How much time do you guys spend on your password app for tickets and parking passes?
Way too much time.
Am I the only one? I'm not the only one.
Way too much time. It is a constant
as quickly as I
frustration.
remembered, as I changed the password, I forget it, man.
In the moment,
Yes,
when I
almost the
do
very
a
minute.
password, in the moment, I'm like, I will never forget this. It's impossible for me to forget it.
I can
2
remember,
days later, I cannot for the life of me think
I
of
can
what
remember
put.
my first phone number when I was a little kid. I can't remember the password that I just changed on a flight coming back from Houston for I forget it was one of the things for credential and all that, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I've completely forgotten it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And yeah.
I mean,
We'll figure it. Just reset it. Just make a new one.
Yeah, can we just get to like a text confirmation, text authority? Like, just text me a number. I'll
Oh,
put in the
I've
code, and then we're done.
I love that.
But I've gotten this one too. All right, where you change the password and it says you can't use the same password that you've used like the last 10 times.
Right.
And then I did it again, and I got a message right next. That one doesn't work either. That's what it said. I mean, I'm just kidding. It didn't really say that, but it might as well have said that.
No,
Yeah, not that.
Here's the worst. Are you ready? This is the worst. You try to go into an app or whatever. I can't remember the password. Okay, let's reset it. Reset it. Send it to the email. For some godforsaken reason, I've been logged out of my email, and I got to sign in. Can't remember my email password because I did it when I was 9. And so now I can't get into 2 different things. Got to reset the email, so then I got to go. Yeah. Well, you just opened up a wound right there, Vinny. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it's testing our ability to make short-term memory and long-term memory gains, and we need technology to help us out with that. Just send us a text message, we'll put in the code, and we'll move on with our lives. I'll never remember another password again.
I cannot stand it. All right. Thanks for bringing that up and just raising my blood pressure.
The anxiety now is
at the
ticked
thought
up.
of not having a password. Thanks, Vinny. Up on the text line, French bread.
Oui, oui.
French bread. Have we had French bread text before? I think I would. Speaking of remembering, I would remember somebody named French bread on the text. Do not remember that. Clay, am I?
He's new.
Okay,
or she is new. I'm not sure, but keep it coming, French.
It is new because it's bread.
This is all Vince needs to just derail and think about food for the rest of the show. Because if you get him on once and then he's hungry and then he thinks about 7 things he wants to eat.
That's true. All right.
French.
This is French bread. I have supreme confidence in Mike Washington. Reminds me of Darren McFadden with the home run speed. Also want to see Charles Grant tomorrow and Caleb Rogers. Spy 2-year picks, I feel, are starting to sprout. All right, we need to see. So the home run speed, I think it's there. Obviously 4.3 speed, but Mike Washington's been caught twice, and you know that's eating at him. He was pissed after the first one, but he was like, all right, I just got to learn. The second one, he's pissed about the fact that he got caught the second time. But speaking of Caleb Rogers, our buddy Paul Gutierrez, PG, Raiders columnist, Raiders.com, did a podcast one-on-one with Caleb Rogers that just dropped. I think it was it yesterday, day before? Mm-hmm. These days run together. Fascinating interview. I urge everybody, Raiders.com, Raiders YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, all that different things. I believe it's upon further review. It was the official title. Either way, in the podcast room, great interview. Caleb is one of the best guys, I think, in that locker room to talk to, whether it's about football or life. He is as grounded an individual as I've ever come across. Extremely mature, extremely insightful, listens to your question, tries to give you an answer, and he is as relatable as they come, right? He talked about Rick Dennison. He talked about, year 2, where he's at. I strongly urge everybody to go check out Paul Gutierrez's interview with Caleb Rogers. Great stuff, great insight on the human as well as the football player. But it also goes into, I think it's almost kind of a must listen, really, at this point, heading into tomorrow night, because we're going to see him on the field. And as Clint Kubiak said, that competition at right guard continues with JPJ.
Without a doubt, and and I do think, again, keep talking about that. The part of it is just you need to get a second guy ready, because unfortunately for Jackson Powers-Johnson, he hasn't been able to stay to be available. Right, he's had injuries, but the thing about that is, because of that, it's allowed Caleb Rogers to really gain some ground, and we'll see who wins the job. I think both are going to play this year. That's just history kind of suggests that a little bit. And I'm leaning toward Jackson Powers-Johnson, winning the job. But as Marcus said, and what we're learning about Clint Kubiak is that he's extremely meticulous, and he wants to see the guy that does the right thing more often than not and avoids the ups and downs and the swings and the swings of the pendulum of one great rep and then 3 bad reps. And I remember I had a coach that talked to me about just recently about a player who on the surface was a really good player, but his whole thing with this player, and he goes, look, I'm not telling you anything that I haven't told this guy face to face. You disappear in games, man. And I don't care that this is happening, this focus is happening, you're getting double-teamed, whatever the great ones get double-teamed. And your ratio between good reps and not-so-good reps is there's a gulf there. There's too many of that. And I can't have that fluctuation. I need you to be doing the good reps way more often than you're doing it. And what's so frustrating, and I think Jackson kind of fits into this category, is that you see the good reps. So you know that they're there. But then, unfortunately, the consistency, Adam was talking about this earlier in the show, the lack of consistency, and then all of a sudden, where's Jackson Powers-Johnson in terms of the really good reps? That slides in the opposite direction. And what coaches want, what coaches need, what football teams need, what your teammates need is consistency. And that's what he's working toward. Until he's able to consistently stay on the field and consistently play at a high level, you're going to leave the door open for somebody to take your job.
Adam asked the question, is it that nobody's earning the starting job, or that they're just playing it a high level and that consistency that plays in. I think it's more of the latter. I think, Caleb Rogers has taken big steps, but again, goes to consistency. Who can do it over the period of time at a high level the best? And so, obviously, that'll be determined tomorrow. One more text, shall we? Raider Sean says, good morning, my Raider savants. Ooh, I like that. I'll add that to the resume. A savant. Clay's probably already had that on his.
Yeah, Sean, you're used as a reference. Be ready. We're going to give you a call.
He says, sorry I haven't texted the past few days. We were on our annual trip to Santa Cruz. If you're ever there.
Beautiful. Love
Pizza
Santa
My Heart is the spot. You get a shirt with a free slice? oh my gosh. If it's free, it's for me. Anyways, I'm confident in what Mike can do. He reminds me of McFadden, the way he runs, though he doesn't have that home run ability as good as McFadden had. The only thing he absolutely needs to work on is his routes. He's got to sit on a route, can't drift one way or the other in an offense that we run where the quarterback throws to a spot. Imperative that Mike is in that spot and not drifting away, get to it, sit and make the catch. God bless, go Raiders. Good stuff, insightful, and news I can use. Getting a free slice. Ray Sean, we appreciate you. 702-365-9200. We'll get your final thoughts here on the final sit-down, but not before Clay has a gift for you.
Be caller number 9 at 702-365-9200 for UNLV Rebel football. That's right, the home opener against Memphis. It comes up this Saturday. We have 2 tickets for you. Pick them up here at Lotus Broadcasting, and you're in. Be caller number 9, 702-365-9200. The final sit-down is next here on Raider Nation Radio 920.
It is the final sit-down here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. Big thanks to all our guests on today's edition. Once a Raider, always a Raider. Jay Schroeder joined us an hour or two, as did Adam Hill with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Tape Don't Lies, Marcus Johnson, and as always, you, Raider Nation. We appreciate you. The Raiders getting set for preseason game number 3, their third and final. We are 2.5 weeks away from week 1, start of the regular season for the Silver and Black. Make sure you stay with the flagship for the Silver and Black all day today as you get teed up, queued up, ready for that preseason finale. JT the Brick from 12 to 2. Unnecessary Roughness with Q Myers from 2 to 5. Special locale for Q Myers and Unnecessary Roughness at PT's Gold at 903 East Lake Mead Parkway in Henderson. Drink specials and your chance to win tickets to Allegiant Stadium, as well as bar credit, Uber credit. Get some sweet swag ahead of the season, courtesy of Raider Nation Radio 920 and PT's Tavern.
Love it.
Dylan, go ahead.
You know what I just found out?
Tell me.
I was born on a Sunday because I had to do a whole big thing. Yeah, I had to do a whole big thing. One of which was going back and put my birthday, and you had to. It wasn't just the year, the day, and you had to go back on the calendar. You know how they make you do that sometimes.
Yeah, I'm googling mine.
Okay, yeah.
You were a Sunday?
I was Sunday. Yeah, I
Clay,
never
where
knew
are
that.
you? Do you know?
Well, my mom would always tell me that I was born on a Sunday because that would have co-aligned with Mother's Day. Not true. I looked it up. It was like a Thursday or Friday, but she was in the hospital until Mother's Day. So I was like, 30
Makes
years.
sense.
Yeah, she wanted to make sure.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense for me because the NFL plays on Sundays, right? And so there you go.
Mama Baker lied.
Well, she definitely stretched the truth because the story was much better than the reality.
I was born apparently on a Friday. Which that lines up because I'm all about a good time and about taking the weekend, sort things out.
So many things, so many activities. We had a nice little weekend plan.
Well, that was a fun little nugget. I don't know if there's enough time, Clay.
It took me about a half hour to do all that, by the way. Oh, well. I'll just forget. I'm just going to forget about the password.
There's the potential for a new password there.
I know. Within, by the end of this day.
Yeah, yep.
I saved things to my wallet. I just saved it to my wallet so I don't have to go on the app. You know what I'm saying? It's just
best invention ever.
I really feel good that I was born on a Friday. I feel like that makes a lot of sense for a lot of things.
It's kind of like born under the right sign.
Yeah,
right?
Like if it said Tuesday, I think it would have been a little.
Back I don't know if this still exists, but back when there were assembly lines, Clay will know this, growing up in Detroit. You could always check to see when your car was assembled, and you always wanted to avoid cars that were built on Fridays and Mondays, because Fridays people were rushing through, trying to get to the weekend, and on Monday they were coming off the weekend.
Super angry.
More. Not so much. Yes.
Just say it. Yeah. They're hungover and angry.
Right. Come on. Yeah. So
that's not us though.
Those cars fell apart a little more often.
Yeah. We're great Monday through Friday.
Right. Of course.
We don't even know what day it is, to be honest, because we're operating at such a high level.
There you go.
Right? That's what I'm going to go with. Thanks so much for joining us. For Vinny Montagnore, Clay Baker, I'm Vince Sapienza. Again, stay with the flagship. 12 to 2 JT. Unnecessary Roughness with Q from PT's Gold in Henderson. Have a great day, everybody. We will talk to you on a game day on the tailgate.